Welcome everybody. I wish to welcome everyone and officially declare the special meeting open at 2:30 p.m. Could I remind everybody that council meetings are open to the public and are also live streamed to provide access to all community members. Attendees in the gallery may be recorded and this video and audio of the meeting will be available to the public on council's website. I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we stand, the Gullenay people, and acknowledge my respect for their current and emerging elders and those in dreaming, and thank them for the contributions they have made in building our community. Apologies. Apologies from Mayor Councillor Teresa Millwood. Are there any other apologies? Declaration of prescribed conflicts of interest or declarable conflicts of interest. I now invite those present to use this opportunity to make public any prescribed conflicts of interest or declarable conflicts of interest in respect to the items in the agenda. Councillors should use this opportunity to disclose and or comment on other councillors and or staff interest in accordance with the Act and regulations. The meeting will now be closed to the public to consider a confidential report regarding the emergency debris removal, 1 Mile Creek, Port Hinchinbrook. This meeting is being closed in accordance with the Local Government Regulations 2012, Section 254J, 13G, as the report relates to negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. Can I please have a mover and a seconder? Move Councillor Chewy, second Councillor McLeod. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. Can I please have a move and a seconder to reopen the meeting? Moved by Councillor Jessup, second by Councillor Littlemore. All in favour? Pass. All right, I now invite agenda item 1.1, confidential report, emergency debris removal, 1 Mile Creek, Port Hinchinbrook. Mr. Wilkes, Principal Project Manager, to present the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, councillors.
Afternoon.
Councillors, this is a report in relation to emergency debris removal from 1 Mile Creek and the commercial basin at Port Hinchinbrook. Councillors, in late 2025, far north Queensland experienced a significant weather event in the form of a tropical low that resulted in unprecedented rainfall and flooding over several days across Cassowary Coast region, and this resulted in severe impacts on Cardwell Township and Port Hinchinbrook. As a direct result of this weather event, flooding and the associated runoff, significant damage and silting was sustained within 1 Mile Creek channel and the commercial basin area. The impacts of inflow from flooding upstream included damaged building structures, sunken houseboats, pontoons, and a significant amount of silt, rock and vegetation, which impacted the all tides access and safe passage of boating within the channel and the commercial basin of 1 Mile Creek. Councillors, the Australian and Queensland governments approved under Disaster Recovery Funding Arrangements, DRFA, Category C, the Community Relief Fund for this exceptional disaster event, AGRN 1174, North and Far North Tropical Low, commencing on the 29th of January 2025. The objective of the Community Relief Fund is to assist eligible councils with extraordinary costs of the event-related debris cleanup and disposal activities that are not eligible for funding under Category A and Category B of the DRFA. Council will continue to seek emergency environmental approvals and funding arrangements that would allow a further dredging program. Councillors, a request for quotation RFQ process for the disaster recovery phase of the works, including debris clearance, has now been finalised. At the close of the procurement on Wednesday the 12th of February 2025, 3 responses were received. This report summarises the results of the evaluation process and provides a recommendation by the evaluation panel in relation to Phase 1 debris clearance only in 1 Mile Creek and the commercial basin of Port Hinchinbrook. Councillors, the tender evaluation report is attached. Council, the recommendations of this report are: 1, that Council note that the commercial basin lot 98S separable portion 221610 is owned by the Passage Holdings Proprietary Limited in liquidation. Recommendation 2, that Council note under section 15.4 of the conform deed signed in 1998 by the Commonwealth of Australia, the State of Queensland, Cardwell Properties Proprietary Limited and Council of the Shire of Cardwell, that the Passage Holdings Proprietary Limited in liquidation must preserve and keep at its expense the canals and access channels in Port Hinchinbrook. Recommendation 3, that Council award the scope of work tendered under CCW 000301 emergency debris removal from 1 Mile Creek and Port Hinchinbrook Commercial Basin as submitted by Australasian Marine Associates Proprietary Limited for the tendered amount of $398,000. Recommendation 4, in accordance with the Local Government Act 2009, Council delegate the authority to the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, to enter into a contract, negotiate, finalise and execute any and all matters associated with or in relation to the contract subject to Council's normal procurement policies and practices. Recommendation 5, the Council approve the allocation of $487,500 of disaster recovery funding arrangements, DRFA, Category C Community Relief to fund the Port Hinchinbrook Debris Clearance Project. Recommendation 6, that Council requests the CEO capture the increase in revenue and expenditure as a result of emergency debris removal from 1 Mile Creek and the Port Hinchinbrook Commercial Basin at budget review. Recommendation 7, the Council thank the Australian and Queensland governments for the activation of the Community Relief Fund for this exceptional disaster event, AGRN 1174, North and Far North Tropical Low, commencing 29th of January 2025. And Council continue to advocate to the Queensland Government for a sustainable long-term dredging plan which minimises the financial risk to the ratepayers of the Cassowary coast.
Councillors, any questions? Councillor Chewy.
Thank you, through the chair. Mr. Wilkes, could you please just clarify in recommendation 3 and 5 the discrepancies in the amounts, please? We are for the tender amount of $398,000 and yet approve the allocation of $487,500. So, thank you.
Councillor Chewy. Those two amounts, the first amount in recommendation 3 is the award of the actual tendered contract sum, and in recommendation 5, that is for the approval and allocation of funds for the actual overall project budget, which includes project management fees and project contingency.
Thank you. And just another question, if I may. If you could explain to everybody, because what happens to the debris once it is actually removed? Where does it go, potentially? Thank you.
Councillor, the scope of works for the project includes removal of debris, large rocks that have washed away from the shores of 1 Mile Creek will be stored to be reinstated at a later date, and the remaining debris material will go to landfill.
Other councillors? Councillor Littlemore.
Through the chair. Firstly, let me congratulate the staff on a job well done in such a short time. I know that in closed committee we talked briefly about the damage potentially to equipment and definitely people's livelihoods. I know of one professional that operates out of there's already been through $1,000 propeller that normally lasts him 2 years. So not necessarily a question, but just a congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Littlemore.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Jessup.
It's not really a, through the chair, it's not really a question, but more an observation that the ratepayer won't be paying, the Cassowary Coast ratepayer won't be paying for this. This is government funded money, is that correct? I suppose every taxpayer will pay, but This is Cat C funding. Was that correct?
Yes, Mr. CEO.
Through the chair, thanks for the question, councillor. This was an extraordinary package of funding that was provided 50-50 from the federal government, the Australian government and the Queensland government. So this package was specifically provided for the cleanup of debris and material, and the guidelines clearly state that this funding can't be used on activities that would normally attract the DRFA Category B or D funding. So Category B is what council would normally rely on for the renewal of our essential assets, and obviously whilst a lot of this debris has come from an essential asset from the bridge there and from other areas, it certainly doesn't attract those funding. So this will be fully funded out of the Category C Community Relief Fund, and the other part of that fund, I guess, is that we're undertaking work in an area that council's not responsible for maintaining. It is covered under a conformed deed that the what is now the Passage Holdings, who are in liquidation, should be responsible for, so they don't have insurance to cover these works. And further to that, Lot 98, which is also privately owned by the Passage Holdings in liquidation, which also doesn't have insurance to undertake those works. So council, I think it would be a different decision to step in and put this recommendation to council should we not have had that Category C Community Relief Fund. So it is making, certainly helping to support the community down there.
Yeah, thank you. Another question is, how soon would this take place? If this was to get passed today, how soon would we be looking at them remove that debris?
Councillor, the information that we've requested of the contractors, the tenderers, indicate that we could mobilise as within 2 to 3 weeks.
Through the chair, councillor, it's effectively different equipment. So the equipment that the contractor currently has mobilised to site is different to the equipment that's required to move the debris. So the suction cutter dredge can't deal with the debris, and it's critical, I guess, for any future consideration around dredging that this debris is removed. It's really an enabling task to enable those future discussions. But it is the mobilisation of new equipment, because the equipment required to undertake this work is different to that was used for the suction cutter dredging.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor McLeod.
Sorry, through the chair. Just to be clear, because I know those who read our financial reports, this money isn't in and out. So it's going to go out of our bank account for that amount, but it is going to be recouped the same amount of money back in. So there is zero cost to the ratepayers and in our budgets. Just want to clarify that I am correct in saying that.
Yeah, look, through the chair, council undertake a budget review process at the end of each quarter, and it's natural that we may attract grant funding, and that grant funding would come in, and the expenditure to the same value of that grant funding would go out. So, absolutely, there's a recommendation there that the CEO bring to council and capture that in the upcoming budget review. So, again, fully funded, that allocation of $487,500 out of the Cat C Community Relief Fund.
Councillor Littlemore.
Thank you, Chair. The question I have, Mr. Wilkes, is it an option not to remove this debris? Is there an implication of not doing that and waiting till there's a greater dredging opportunity?
Councillor, there's a difference between debris removal and dredging. We can't undertake any dredging until we have the debris removed for safety reasons. And obviously, if we don't remove the debris that is there currently, then boating access is restricted, and there is safety issues in relation to the safe use of that facility.
Councillor, just through the chair, to add to that, I think if the hard debris that's in the channel at the moment certainly exacerbates the issue that we have seen just with the siltation and the lack of access. So it's made that issue worse, and we've talked about economic impact through that around a decline in tourism. We've talked about that decrease in commercial activities out of the precinct. We've covered on, there's also safety concerns there, so the risk of accidents to vessels, obviously an impact to emergency services, and certainly the great work that the Coast Guard do. It's very hard, even just with the mud there, let alone with the additional debris that's in that. There's some environmental consequences there, so potential impact on marine life. The way that rock is sitting in there can hold water on a low tide, make that water maybe more stagnant with the acid sulphate soils we've got in there. Not to mention the missed opportunity every day that this facility isn't brought back to where it was originally envisaged is a real loss of opportunity, not just for Port Hinchinbrook, for Kabul, for the region, and you'd have to argue for Queensland.
Through the chair, I'm happy to move the motion then.
Yeah, yep, no worries at all. Thanks, Councillor Littlemore. I'll just go to Councillor Baines, got a few questions.
Thank you, Chair. So probably just to reiterate again, Mr. Wilkes. So this is about the debris removal post this event, which is generally around marine safety. There are other concerns and other risks that have been mentioned further on in the report around the environmental. This event has probably or most likely put some more silts or these sorts of ideas into the system, but that's a project that would be looked at into the future, possibly, dependent on funding and dependent on the availability of how we can go that. But I think I'd just like to say, so it's not really a question, that point 8, where we're continuing to advocate to the Queensland Government for the sustainable long-term dredging plan, which minimises financial risk to the ratepayers of the Cassowary Coast. So I think people need to understand this project doesn't stop that from happening, that it's an ongoing thing in the future, but this project is essential to be done now around safety and the risks that are coming forward out of the event just recently.
That's correct,
Fair
Councillor.
comment? Thank you.
Yes.
I'm happy to second.
All right. Councillor Littlemore moved, Councillor Baines second. Just one more question from myself. Councillor, Mr. Wilkes, just in relation to the scope of works to be undertaken, in what vicinity and what's actually going to happen? Is there a bathymetric survey undertaken post and after this work's completed?
Mr. Mayor. Yes, so the scope of work includes, so it is the entire 1 mile creek channel and the and lot 98 of the commercial basin. And yes, the scope will include a bathymetric survey pre-debris removal and a survey post-debris removal. That will give us a reasonable expectation and confirmation that we have been able to remove most of the majority of the debris.
All right, thanks, Mr. Wilkes. All right, so I've got a mover and a second. I move Councillor Littlemore, second Councillor Baines. Can we vote? All? Sorry? Yep. Show of votes. All in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. All right, there being no further business, I declare this meeting closed at 3:10 p.m. Thank you very much.